Hey guys, so it's the next morning. As I said in the previous, in part one, I think I called it. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it in the VIP group on YouTube or both or what really, so don't be confused about whatever I've said. It's wherever it is, doesn't matter. This is part two. I'm going to try and get through as much as I can really efficiently. So I've got all the tools laid out, ready to go, mentally prepared. So let's go for it. Maybe I should talk less than just do. Maybe it should be one of those videos. So I haven't done anything since yesterday. Just going to unplug this coolant temperature sensor, hopefully. Done. Okay. Been on holidays, I haven't done one of these for a while, so it might be a bit rusty. Okay, so we've got that off and undone the clip, just tuck that back there out the way, and that's what it'll be, out of the way while we're at it. Release this clip. Out of there, because later on we need to be able to lift that up. Now, I already mentioned this other clip here, the brown one. They kind of fall apart, you know, you'll just see it crumbling like, I don't know if you can see that in the video, but look, the bottom part of the clip, that could have just broken. See, it just crumbles away. I don't know how much detail you can see, but yeah, I'll try and get what's left of it out. I'll show you, I don't know if you can see that, but look, it just literally crumbles like a bit of chocolate. There you go, but it's not chocolate, all right? So basically it's the part of the zip tie part that goes around it, but it leaves a hole in the, so you leave that there, that's hard to get out, you don't ever take that out. You just put a zip tie around through there like that. Again, shown it in other videos. I keep saying what we've done in other videos. You really, that's what I mean, same thing with those. So we released the clip at that end. This is the hinge side here, and I've got, and it's just fallen off. So basically, kind of that's what happens. We could go on with unclipping all this wiring, the injectors obviously. All you got to do is press, click, and sometimes a bit of a push, but they are pretty simple. Look, it's not always that easy. Like I said, I've done a few, so be aware of that. The main thing is you just got to make sure you've got the clip pushed and pull the plug, not the wires, guys. Be really careful with the wires. See, these ones are in really good condition. They're not always like that. So just be careful of all the clips is one of the main things. Make sure you got it released. This is just going to come off now because I did loosen that up previously by putting the tool in there. Once you crack it loose, oh, it's just a rubber duck. We're going to sit that over with the intercooler. Give that a wipe, as I've said about the little bit of oil at the joins is where it accumulates. Okay, so we're going to use tools to get this done fairly quickly. If it works out, depends if they're powerful enough, depends how tight everything is. So I'm going to take this throttle body arrangement off. No, so you're not happening. So, you know, I've got to get a tool to undo at least one of those. Crack the ratchet. So there's no point even trying the others really. We'll just crack them all loose. Nice and tight. Probably never been off this one, like from what I've seen so far. I don't believe they're loose. They work loose over time. The rubber just squashes. I don't think that this one's been pulled apart before. One bolt at the bottom, 2 bolts at the bottom, nut at the top, nut at the top. Alright, so just take that off. And the gasket also, which you can reuse that one. It's up to you if you want to reuse gaskets or not. You've probably seen my other video. It's called Buying Injectors, and I hope you have anyway. makes things easier. It explains a few of the different things that are available in the injector kit. Optional things, and some of those optional things are these gaskets, okay? So basically, you know, if you just want all new gaskets, no problem, that's what we've got for you. But if you want to save 40 bucks or something on some gaskets, then that's what we've got for you, right? EGR valve doesn't look too bad, that's good, so it probably won't be an intake clean. Save them some money there, but we'll have a look once we get further down. Okay, so we've done the wiring. I don't need to tell you what we've done because you're watching, so I've got to just shut up and do it, right? Shut up and, what's the song there? Shut up and drive. Well, shut up and do your work, something like that. Maybe they need a new song. I'm just going to talk a bit of rubbish, keep you entertained maybe, right? So we're undoing the pink and the yellow on the side here, the two vacuum lines. I pull on them, and plus a little bit of levering from the top is usually what works. This one right here is a little bit tighter than the normal one, which really confirms that it hasn't been off before. You know, while we're at it, we'll do this pink one on the bottom of the EGR cooler, the actuator here. Again, using that heater hose tool to just gently work around it and stretch it and crack it loose without damaging it, because, you know, if you're not careful, you will damage it. Alright, so we've got all those off. I'll say that again, the pink and they're marked with pink and yellow. Make sure you put those back the right way, and this one on the bottom here. Just going to tuck those down near the oil filter a little bit out of the way for now. Then we're going to get the three 12mm bolts on the side there. Alright, so the bottom one first. Be careful when you do that you don't hit your knuckle on there, right? I can tell you from experience. Don't worry. And even though I know, it happens every now and then, a bit of a misjudgment, you know. So we crack that bottom bolt, 12mm. When I say the size of bolts, I'm telling you the size of the head for your convenience, not the size of the threads or anything like that. So if you lose one, don't go and buy a 12mm whatever, because that ain't the one. They're an 8mm thread. This one's been a bit difficult, so what I'm going to do, as I should have anyway, is just crack them all loose. Always undo everything in sets and do them up in sets. So that'll probably solve the problem of this bottom one not wanting to come out by hand. Yep, of course. Don't drop it. I never drop bolts, only in videos. Like I said, in videos is where everything goes wrong. Now, with the 120s, you can sit a lot of the bolts up on the plastic shroud there because they're not in the way. That one at the bottom of the windscreen there, which I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it doesn't matter. These bolts, I'm just sitting them up there, and sit them in the order you take them off. The ones that come off first, you put those furthest to the center, so then you're working your way from the center out to the side, and then when you put it back together, when you're kind of going, well, what do I do next? Well, look where your bolts are. Yep, well, that's what goes on next. Right, now this whole, because we've taken the two vacuum lines at the top, the two at the bottom, and those three bolts, this whole assembly comes off, so we're going to go and put that aside on the bench. If you want to save yourself a bit of confusion with nuts and bolts, because you know you're kind of new at this, take your three bolts you took out of it and put those with it, then you know 100%. You know 100% they're the ones that go with that, okay? So, and the more you take off, the more you start opening up the job to make it look easier. Now let's get this EGR valve off. The easiest way to do that first is to finish. That's what I've got to remember to do. There's lots of different orders and ways to do things, but I'm not trying to do what some people do and trick you that it's a hard job. It is a big job and it is a specialist area, and that was tight. But I say that because, whoop, nearly lost a socket. I say that because there's a lot of people that do get it wrong, and they're supposed to be people in places that are in the know, that have got experience with these things. That little bolt, I'll put it right at the top in the inside because it's, you know, and it's a little bit shorter than the other. But you have your own way. Take your time to set it aside so you know what's what and where all your bolts go. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to take, there's a cover. This is a cover over the valve cover, like an insulating cover. So we're going to crack those loose. All right. Set those aside on my little table here. Okay, just grabbing a couple of tools. We need a uni joint and a 10mm on the 3/8 drive. So then we can quite easily reach in. You've got that one there, which we'll put aside, but there's also one further in at the back, probably the hardest one to get to. And that's it there. So we've got those bolts out of the cover. The quick, easy way. As I said, we're just sort of stripping it down, trying to get this one to be a bit of a quick one for those people that are impatient, but you don't want to be impatient and not watch the whole thing and be skipping and pressing fast forward. You can press pause, take a break. You don't want to miss anything, you know, watch it again. It's like, you know, when you watch a movie and you get interrupted, it just messes it up. Well, same deal. All right, sometimes these insulating covers should come, that insulation should come up with the cover. They don't always, depending if they've been off and how long, you know, and all varying factors, right? So this one's proving to just be a little bit more difficult than the usual one. Again, just for the video, normally it's just it's sticking to the cover back there, which is a pain. It's like someone glued it there, so that's right. Generally, they just, normally it's a bit easier than that, to be honest. So normally they come off pretty easy. What's going on there, but that's all good, so that'll stay there. So yeah, just to be clear, that's how it should come up with the insulation in the cover. That one was a bit fiddly and a bit sticky in a couple of places. Now what the best thing to do with that is grab your 4 bolts that came out of it and sit those in that cover. So again, you don't get those mixed up. Go sit those on the bench with your intercooler. What this has done is allowed, I would go to this stage even if I was just doing, say, an EGR clean. That way it allows you more clearance and room to get in here to get to this upside down bolt, which you're about to see shortly. I'm going to get a 12mm ratchet spanner. It's the best option. Okay. Just for that bolt in the bracket there. So yet another 12mm. This is the longest one. You'll notice there's a few of the same and a few different, so we're just going to sit that up on top again. You know, for us, we know exactly which bolt it is anyway. It's got a bit of a shank on it without the thread is the difference in that one compared to some of the others. But we'll let you know which one of the others that looks similar. Now we're going to grab I actually use a King Chrome brand. I'm not saying it's the best one, but it works well for me. It's CRV KO30033, 10mm ratchet spanner with a little kick on the head. Right, that easily allows us to get to this one. Make sure you got on properly, no slipping, no messing around, no rushing. I'm trying to pump it a little bit. I could do it quicker. I could do it slower. Probably prefer to do it a little bit slower, but we're just going consistent without any interruptions to try and show you the strip it down procedure. Again, the bolt up on the tray there. I'll show you what they look like, those bolts. So they're just your typical small ones, 6mm thread, 10mm head, and it's got a washer on it. Don't drop it. And these can be really difficult to get out. People will watch this video that have done it. If they're honest, they'll go, geez, you know. Look, I'm told these are really hard, these two, and I remember when they used to be. But they're not anymore. I don't know if it's the right tools or enough practice or what, but it's easier when you haven't got gloves on. but we don't want to get our hands dirty, do we? When I'm putting it back together, I'll give you some tips on getting it back together the easiest way possible, trying to make it easier for us. So this is a 120. If you've got a 150 Prado, you want to watch, because things are a little bit different, putting that bolt up the top there at the driver's side. So those two upside down bolts are out, just like that, bada boom, bada bing. Again, don't compare yourself. It wasn't that easy for me every time, especially many years ago at the start, when I did say, you know, my first one. Okay, so 3 more bolts and that whole EGR assembly is going to come off. Okay, so let's get those tools. Always try different tools and stuff and try and, because it is a bit fiddly to get in there, but I'll try and give you the best options that I've found over the years, and that's with a wobble extension, quite long. Push that wiring loom back a little bit, you can, because you've already taken that bolt out, so you got to make sure you got that bolt out the top. You can push this back enough to get a bit of clearance to get on there and quite easily crack it loose. Again, the speed thing, you got to ask yourself, how much time did I save by taking that off and grabbing this? But I think I saved time, and you just see that I'm not even putting it on because of the angle. I'm sort of like making a mini joint out of it. Alright, I just want to spin it enough that I know that it's out, and it is out. Not too worried about the tools, they'll be right. And we'll try and get that out without dropping it too. That's the downside to the longer. You can use a slightly shorter extension, that's what I normally do. But for whatever reason. Anyway, there it is. See these ones? I've only got a short shank. I just want to show you the difference. There's 3 of these, which we're about to get the other 2 out. This one that goes here, there's the difference, because I have seen people muck those up before. Right, there's a length difference, and you can see the shank there without the thread is longer. Alright, so hard to mix those up once you know. That's what these videos are for, to show you what to do. No mistakes. Hopefully we'll get these injectors out, I don't know, within about an hour or something. But doing an EGR clean, so it's like we might as well get this off because it does make it easier. Okay, so go and grab that zip little impact driver again. If I remember correctly, I mean, I've been using these for over 10 years. Since the Ryobi Plus one when they were blue. I don't know if you guys remember that. You know, you probably only remember all the ads and everything since they've been around in green a lot for most people. Right. This one, well used. You know what, I'm going to give Ryobi a plug. Look at that. That is absolutely hammered. This has been used, you know, around the house, in the garden, building pergolas, mates' places, helping out mates and whatever. But probably been knocked around and dropped a little bit. Absolute machine, love it. So if you want to ask me about my tools, highly recommend all the Ryobi Plus One system. I'm not into wasting money collecting stuff you don't need, and I suggest you don't either. But for the things you do need, think it through before you buy it. Do you really need it? You know, no need to waste your money buying things just for toys, filling up the shed or the house with junk, you know. Same goes with everything like that in your life, I think. But you just got to think, where does it end, you know? So I'm going to put those 2 bolts up with the other one up on the shelf here, and then this assembly, a bit of a push of the wiring loom to get out of the way, and then, unless I've forgotten something, because I've been on holidays and brain might not work anymore, whole assembly comes off, and grab that. It's the one that goes in between there off the bottom, because it could fall off, because that's what happens. Okay, so if I put this part on YouTube, I don't know when the rest of it's going to get on YouTube or not or whatever. But look, in Fourby4 Diesel VIPs, look, because YouTube, it's kind of a public thing, I sort of want to make sure it's all about right. Where in the VIP group, it's kind of like, we're a bunch of mates, people that trust me, they brought parts off me, and I'll back them up till the end, you know what I mean? So I don't really care what I put in there, I'm a bit looser about what I put in there, so if I haven't got time to edit, I'll just put the whole video in there, whatever, where with the YouTube stuff, I want to sort of make sure it's clean and everything's about right, you know. Don't want to be, you know, giving anyone the wrong information sort of thing. So if you don't see the rest of the video on YouTube, well, it's probably coming, or maybe on another car or something like that, if you can get around to it. But this is the sort of thing that's in there, and it just goes on. And I'll just do it again and again. Different cars, different years. But if a day ever comes that I've got time that I'm not working on 1kds, well, we'll move on. Basically, what I put in videos, it's whatever I'm doing, if you know what I mean. So if I'm doing injectors every day, then that's what you're going to see in videos. If we're changing wheel bearings, that's probably what you're going to see, you know. If we have a quieter week and we're doing servicing, that's what you're going to see, you know what I mean. If we're on holidays, that's what you're going to see. Now, we've got another channel for that. It's called Touring Australia. So if you want to have a look, if you want to learn stuff about the vehicle, how to use it, how not to use it, how to set it up, and outback tracks information and places and scenery, you can check out that channel. It's called Touring Australia. So capital T, capital A, Touring, one word, Australia, the other word, Touring Australia. So subscribe on that one, and then whenever we're doing trips and outback stuff, tag along tours, you know. You can have a look and keep up to date with what we're doing there. So now there's a few other related works we do, you know, taking this off and whatever. You know, if you're going to put one of those plates in, you got to take this off. But at the moment, I just want to get the injectors out to get that into this stage of the video. So EGR valve off. So that's covered. This video has covered EGR valve off, because if you were doing an EGR clean, it would be no different to what we've done now, other than taking those clamps that I just took off, right? This is what you would do. You'd clean it all. You'd look in there. You'd go, I can tell you. I'm going to decide now whether this is getting it runs really well. It's got plenty of power. Okay, I've got to clean. There's a bit of build up around here, that's for sure. And then I've got to look further down the port, because there's a bit up the top here. So this is what we do, right? I suppose this is a good explanation for you as well. So I spend a bit of time. If you are doing an EGR clean, if you're just doing it yourself, it's only your own time. And if you're confident to do the manifold, go ahead, pull the whole lot off, right? Go ahead and do it. All right, do it at the same time as your injectors, or before your injectors. You don't want to pull your pipes off and your injectors and whatever, and risk contamination of those to do your manifold. It's all going to come off to do your manifold. So do it before your injectors, or do it at the same time. Now, with this one, I don't believe the manifold's caked up to the point that it's worth needing to clean. But there's a bit of build up here. Sometimes it's up on the EGR valve in the elbow. With this one, there's quite a bit just around there. I can see it kind of goes in, it builds up, and then there's like a shoulder, and it, you know. So once we get the top, it's about an inch, goes down about 1.5 inches. Once we clean that and back it out, then I'll be able to look further down number 4 port and have a feel forwards up the manifold, sort of like that, and just go, yep, and judge how much is in there, whether it's worth all that extra work. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could be here and just sell all the work and do that, but I'm into value for money and not wasting. If it doesn't need to be done, we're not going to waste your money or my time doing stuff that doesn't, it's not going to be of benefit, if you know what I mean. So if it's not going to change the reliability or the fuel efficiency or the power by much, not worth doing. Unless it's your own time. Like I said, if it's only your own time and you've got the weekend and you're confident you can get it done in the weekend, you're pretty handy on the tools, go for it. Okay, better get on with the job. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to crack those top fuel lines on the injectors. Which I normally do from right where this camera is, so it's quite painful. So I'm going to make it look a bit unco, because we've got this. You probably, that's not going to work because you won't see it. Normally I do it from in front, but that's not going to work out, so I'm going to try and do it from here, right? Yeah, that didn't really feel right. Normally it's just grab it and pull it and crack it loose, you know what I mean? So it's a bit of an unco way to do it. But anyway, not hard to undo when you've got the right tool. Okay. So generally you're going to do 3 this side of the wiring loom, and then probably 1 that side of the wiring loom. Look, if you're no good on the tools, then you shouldn't be doing this, that's for sure. If it seems like a too big job for you, don't touch it, you know. this is the other way to look at it, right? We've got people in most places in Australia that could do the job properly. This is a job you've got to get right because it's got to be right for the next 5 to 10 years, right? In this case, this vehicle, it's been 10 years, 11 years, right? So when I give my estimation about 7 years, it's an estimation, that's what I think. I probably wouldn't leave my injectors that long, so it's a balance for me because you got the people going, mine are, and I'm not basing it on a lucky set. I've mentioned this before, like car insurance. I'm not going to base it on the guy that says, I don't have any insurance, I haven't had any claims. I'm just taking this clip off this wiring loom here, off the heater hoses, right? Don't lose that. These other ones, they can, oh, that one's broken already, there you go. So someone has been in here before, yeah, this one's broken as well, so there you go. So we can either fix those or replace them, we've got all those in stock. So that clip there, it'll either just clip back in or someone's been heavy with it and busted it. Yeah, look, to be honest, that's damaged. That would kind of work, right? But see how it's a bit, I don't know, it's just going to pop off again, maybe, I don't know. I'll decide on that one. This one stays in place because, well, it doesn't because they've already done it. So obviously, I think these fuel lines maybe have been off once before. There's no marks on the nuts though, but anyway, we'll get to that. Okay, where is it? Okay, so we're going to take probably the wrong tool for the job, so I'll put that back. I need to show you the right tool for this, not the wrong tool. So just a 1/4 drive ratchet and a sort of short medium length to get these two nuts. They feel like they haven't been off because factory's 5 Newton meters. Normally if someone takes these off, they are super tight because that's the nature of the beast, mate. These technicians, they crank stuff pretty hard. Now, it could be just luck that there was someone really good and he used torque settings, which I don't, I just go by feel, but just nicely, it's just a clamp. So those two nuts up there, remember what we said in the order that we're taking them off. And then a flat blade to sort of separate. There's a flat clamp behind it in front. I just want to get this down in the middle, have my hand there to catch it so it doesn't fall, and just try to separate the two clamps because they're kind of like rubber, they've been there for years, and it's like kind of stuck there. There it is. Right, but we don't want to drop it either, so one side come off, the other side's still quite stuck, and quite often the metal and the rubber do separate, so there it is. But look, you can see well, this one stayed stuck on the backing plate, but you can see that gap there, so it's only stuck at each end. So that clamp comes off so we can get the fuel on. So we've done the top of the fuel lines, all the clamps. There's one more clamp actually, I shouldn't say all the clamps because we haven't done all the clamps. There is a separate clamp on number 4. You can get down there with a shorter extension again or no extension whatsoever. Or you could use a 3/8 with like a deep reach socket would be handy. I just prefer the smaller, lighter tools. A bit quicker and easier to flip in there and more chance you're not going to over tighten anything. So getting that bolt out. I'll show you what it looks like. Usually it's black. Yep, there it is this time, black. And I believe they're the same as the ones that go up in the top of that cover, or the ones in the cover might be a little bit longer, but they're pretty much the same anyway. Again, stack them in that order. Now, important one, to get to the common rail at the bottom, the first thing we've got to do is get the stay, the bracket out of the way. They call it a stay. I kind of don't get the stay. What's staying about a bracket, It might stay there, it might not. But they call it a stay. And what we use is this length extension. What's that, 6 inch or something? Wobble extension, and have the socket so it wobbles like that, right? Always single hex sockets for this job because sometimes you're going to be on a bolt and it's sort of like you can't quite, and it just helps, right? So wobble extension, single hex sockets are the go. That way your socket's locked on and you've got the wobble there if you need it. And I'm using the very old Sid Chrome ratchet that's had no handle for about a decade or two because I like it, even though I've got newer ones there. I prefer this one. I prefer it without the handle. So what you want to do, I'm going to bring the light down here for a minute. You know what? this is where we're going to do an edit. I'm going to bring the camera down and show you what I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so this is where we are. Alright, passenger side, between the power steering reservoir and sitting next to we're basically on top of the fuse box here. Center of the picture, see that 12mm bolt? It's on a bracket, right? That runs up, and the bracket runs up to just underneath this actuator here. How can I show you that? I think that's the top of the bolt, right? See that? That one we're going to take out in a minute. Just loosen off the other one first. So see it goes down, right? Top of it, it's in behind, underneath that, right? So it's down just there, right? I'm touching it right there. So it's a bit hidden, so don't forget that one. A bit like this hidden one under here. We'll get to the other hidden ones. See that hidden one underneath the pipe there, center of the picture now. Right, we'll get to those, so keep watching. And the one in the center of the picture at the bottom is the one we want to get to now. So I'm going to do this kind of one-handed. I'm reaching down through this hole at the back here. So there's the firewall. This is where I'm going to reach down through here like this and around. I'm going to show you the easy way. Right, I've done it all the hard ways. How easy was that? It's already on there. Hang on, did I? Where is it? Yeah, you can see. Oh, you kind of see. Right, a bit of a hard one. There it is, right? Yeah, I'll take it off and put it on again. How easy is that, right? Boom, when you're going from the right position, there it is in single hex, it ain't going to slip. Okay, now I can't do this one-handed though, simply because it's just so, it's very tight, this bolt, right? So I need two hands for this one, so you're going to have to sit tight. Alright, so the ratchet's in position, so I'm putting my hand down the same hole to undo it, but my left hand needs to go down as well to hold the head of the ratchet to keep it all square and quite tight, like I said. Okay, ratchet off. Now I'm just using the extension. I'm going to go 1, 2, about 3 or 4 turns, not all the way out. I'll have a look at it till you see it about 2mm, and then I'll go back in half a turn just to make sure the bolt's not about to pop out, right? So that's done. What I'll do, I will show you what it looks like, even better, eh? Okay, so we've got that bolt loose how we wanted to, down the bottom there. We don't take the bottom one out, we just loosen it, right? It's not too hard to get back in, but it's a little bit fiddly to get back in, right? So that's why we just loosen it. Then the top one, we're going to grab the ratchet. Usually the 12mm deep reach works simply because that's the kind of length you want in the area. That's what I use, and I have that around. It's handy for quite a few things. So again, quite tight, but that's cracked loose. Get in and take that top bolt out of the bracket, and that bracket with the VSVs and everything on, it's basically just hanging there by, and it's not really hanging, it's just sitting there because the bolt's still in. So that bolt from the top, we're just going to sit that up on the top. Again, working our way from the center out, pulling it apart, and from the outside in, pulling it back together. So this is just hanging there now by the couple of it's sitting on the bolt actually, but by the vacuum lines and the plugs and whatever, right? If you took the bottom bolt out, it'd be floppy as anything. Then what we're going to do is just give it a bit of, it just stretches the vacuum line a little bit. We'll give it a pull forward and around, so it sits on top of that actuator there, right? So there's this actuator here, which you've got to check the operation of for your EGR system because it's not working right. P0400, these can get seized. I just thought I'd mention that, you know, but that's another story and other videos. Very rare thing anyway, but you know, when you've got hundreds of thousands of cars, it's going to happen on a handful. So that bracket there, you just give it a gentle pull and it comes and sits on the outside. That way you can still get to 1 and 2 and you can get to 3 and 4 clearly, you know. So you're sitting that bracket around about where you took that vacuum line off. There you go. That's your hottest tip I can give you. Sit the bracket where the vacuum line came off. It's just sort of in the center there. It's in the way of the middle fuel line that comes from the pump, but you're clear to get to 1 and 2 here and 3 and 4 there, as you're about to see, because that's what we're doing next. We're going to crack those fuel lines. So you'd be using the tool that you got sent in the injector kit, and if you can, return those as well, because you're only going to use it once in 5 or 10 years, and we've got heaps of other people that need them, so send them back. with your red caps, all your red caps, your old injectors, so we can learn about those and do your free contamination checks. The main reason you might want to be sending them back. I know some people, I don't know why, but they want to keep them, but that's fine, no problem. We said you can do that if you want to keep them. Absolutely. Now, the extension length I'm going to use is this. It's that extension that we used earlier, so to give you, an idea. Plus I've got a breaker bar with an adapter plus another short extension on there. Works best. So we're going to go in, we're going to crack them all loose. Number one first. So that's on already. You know what, for this one we don't even need the extension. This is the problem, right? Every car is different. Hilux, Prado, 150, whatever, and you just vary them a little bit. Now in our case, we don't disconnect the battery for a number of reasons. You should probably do that when doing any work on the motor vehicle. So in our case, this is covered, so that's good. Some cars aren't. I don't know if you can see that in the video at the moment. Let me go and have a look. No, you can't see the battery. So look, you got the positive just here kind of thing. So make sure it's covered, or you've got the negative disconnected, so that when you crack the fuel lines, like that, right, which isn't a problem, just you can control it so that it doesn't wobble around and hit the wrong areas and short it out. The reason one of the main reasons, sometimes we do a compression test, depending what we find once we get in the engine and whatever. We used to do it on every vehicle, but it's pretty much a waste of time. And I've probably explained it in other videos since. Just going to get number one fuel line completely out of the way, and this is direction you do it for ease, right forwards, just like that. Piece of coke, yeah? You can make things look harder, and you can take longer, so I can talk and work. Some people just talk. Anyway, so this is it is sort of a fiddly part, but not that fiddly. You just carefully, crack them loose. As I've said a number of times, don't compare yourself if you haven't done it before, or everyone's got different skills and whatever. And I'm not saying I'm the best at this, but I think I'm okay at it. It's a bit of that, bit of knowledge, bit of experience, and just taking the time. Number two fuel pipe, you can generally twist it to the front, maybe. There you go, that was pretty easy. Number two can go either way. You can twist it backwards or forwards. Now this is obviously with all your hoses in the way. If you're going to do a manifold clean, you've got to pull the whole EGR cooler off, which means you've got to dump your coolant first, and you might as well take all these hoses off out of the way to open up the job for you. So if you're doing a manifold, full coolant flush included, all these hoses coming off so they're out of the way. So that'd be a bit different because your fuel lines will come straight out because none of this is there, right? Okay, number three. Let's go down to number three. Now you probably wonder, why don't I just crack them all loose? Well, number one's in the way of number two a bit. That's why I did number one, got it off, then did number two and got it off. But now I'm going to crack, I could have done 2, 3 and 4, but now I'm going to crack 3 and 4. And by the way, these do feel like they haven't been off before. 240 something thousand Ks, And the injectors, they're out of spec, but they don't look too bad. Now I've lost my crow's foot, so I'm going to go back and get that. Right, just put the extension back on. And out she comes, right. Now, it's not a jack in the box either. You know about the jack in the box, that's when we undo. These will actually be really hard to undo because of the pipes have been bent and there's pressure. See, that's just sitting normal how it should. If they've been bent, they go boing, they want to sit up here like this because they've been bent up and they've bent them back down to put them in there. And of course that doesn't really work out that well, does it? So, number three, generally is a little bit more fiddly to get out. You kind of got to bring the bottom of the pipe forwards and pull the hoses back a little bit. Bit of a, we'll do it this way and that way. Yeah. And then number 4 at the bottom there is off. Look, we're changing injectors, so we're not too fussed about keeping things super clean. I thought I'd crack this one loose, but it seems to be a bit tight, so we're just going to get the spanner to just check if I did crack it. Yeah, I did, because it's very loose by spanner. Here we go. Oh, that one's off, and this is probably your easiest with your EGR valve off, because look, just lifts straight out like that. Piece of cake, a potato cake. Right, what are we going to do now? We're working on the vehicle, and we're going to be moving things around up here and stirring things up. Even though we've cleaned it, you can see there's quite a bit of debris and dirt and stuff up here that could fall down. And what's down there? The common rail. So next thing is we want to grab 4 caps, which if you're doing your inlet clean, you should have asked for and hopefully got in your injector kit. I say hopefully because, you know, people make mistakes, but not always. You only get the caps if you ask for them. You need to, I don't know what you've got and what you haven't. I've got trade guys that have got them. I've got, you know, DIYs that have got them. So we're not going to, there is a bit of a shortage, you know what I mean? I mean, we can get more, but that's what I said. When you send your old injectors back so we can do your free contamination check. Just 1 sec, I'm going to go use some compressed air, hopefully. Is there any air left in there? Going to make some noise. Okay, we're going to cap the common rail, bada boom, nice and clean caps. 1, 2. We're doing number 4 actually, because you know that was closer, and I don't want to sort of be scrubbing around touching number 4 while I'm doing number 3. It's all about clean, guys. You don't want to get crap down in those holes. Get them sealed off nicely. Alright, so that fuel system, all the part that matters is sealed again. Fuel filter over here still in place, we haven't touched that yet. Okay, so without further to muck around, pop those. Okay, this is a key thing here, right? There's been a couple of people that have got caught out, and they're the ones that I know about. Then there's ones that you don't know about, right? You don't try and unbolt the cover and take the cover off now. And it's fair enough, you guys don't know this, so you got to watch the whole videos, right? Otherwise you miss stuff. These nozzle seals, they come out now. There's a little slot at the top. You just get your little flat blade like that, right? This one's been a bit tight and whatever, but you get that, right? Bang, just crack them loose like that. These ones, I don't think they've been out, to be honest. Right, crack them loose at the top, then get your screwdriver down the side a little bit. I'm going to flop them out in a minute, because, come on. There we go, so they're all loose. Just going to take those out of the way. Yeah, I was meant to try and keep this a bit shorter, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut this video. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Right. Nah, look, we'll just roll it. Just give me a break though, guys. I've got a couple of things I've got to do, so I'll do that and then I'll join it on. Alright. So, just pop this rubber off. Usually happens pretty easy. They're pretty robust, so you don't need to be too careful of it. Never broken one. I'll just pull them off, twist them around like that. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get the uni joint and do the back two first. For the back two, you do need the uni joint. Okay, so thread drive, a bit of an extension. Look, whatever suits you, to be honest. Better bring the light back so we can see what's going on there. Just put it on charge for a while to make sure it didn't shag out on us. Gonna stay there. Good on you. The old trusty ARB work light. Not recommended, you know, they're very expensive and they only last about 2 hours, and then it takes a day to charge it, so not much use that, is it? Oh, that was loose as, eh? That bolt didn't have any tension on it whatsoever. Watch it again if you like. Okay, again, it's just about getting it off for you quickly. If you were sort of, for some reason, working on a vehicle where you were pulling this button, you want to put it back together with the same injectors, you would need to take a stupid amount more care to keep it clean, because there's a whole lot of dirt and debris around here, around the injectors and everything, which I haven't cleaned this time, just to, again, normally I would probably give it a bit of a wiper brush and blow it off as well, but it's just going to blow rubbish around everywhere. We don't need to. Most of it's going to stay on that cover, lift off with it, and we're going to go give that a 100% wash down, so it's like a new one. So don't want to waste too much time trying to get it done quickly. Right, magnet to pop the bolts out, that way you can't, no chance you're going to drop them and you don't have to climb back up there again. Unfortunately, I've got to walk around a camera. That's how I do it anyway, you know, up to you how you want to do it. But look, all the bolts are out now. Okay, and I'm just thinking as I go what I might need to tell you about. I'm just going to put all those bolts aside for now, including the two that I took out from the back that I set. Now I'll leave those two up there. They're up on the plastic trim. Then we come over to the passenger side here. There's a little spot here where you can just use your flat. You've got to crack that. There's 4 dobs of sealant, right? The factory prescribed 1, 2, 3, 4. So, you know, it's been on there a long time. So they're going to be, but the key is to do it gently, right? Because you don't want to ram these seals against there, because these are not a standard replacement on the older vehicles. So in our kits we're going to start including those, automatically including them for vehicles that are older than, at this stage, about 2010 or 11, depending what I feel like, how much stock I've got. But you don't need to replace these standard, and they can be a bit fiddly to change, so I don't want to put it on you unnecessarily, because you could damage them changing them and stuff like that as well. And they don't leak. They've got to be clean though. If you're not clean and lube these, that's when you're going to get leaks. So we're being careful of those, and we're going to check the condition of them when they come off. This one, they may get replaced. Okay, so while doing that, just controlling it a bit, holding the cap. See, I've gone up and I haven't rammed that seal into the solenoid now. You can see the whole cover's loose enough that it will come off now, right? Because it's only stuck at the front. That's why it's important not to go crazy with your RTV. You don't need to. These gaskets don't leak. Okay, they leak when you cause a problem, whatever, dirt under the solenoids, pinching or damaging a gasket, whatever the case may be. Now on the Prados, it's a bit of a pain because we've got this wiring loom in the way. You just have to work your way to. Excuse me. Wow, there you go. You've just got to get used to it. Okay, there's a whole lot of clips and stuff going down there. It could take you an hour to unplug that. It should take 5 minutes, but the plugs are quite stuck and tight. It includes the alternator, and it goes down to the turbo and whatever. So it could take you an hour just to unplug those, so it's going to chew in too much time. So I grab it here to be able to pull, and here, so it's a bit of a pull and a wiggle. We're just going to work our way up slowly, remember? This one is a bit tight, so it's a good example. It's one of those ones that just isn't going to come off real easy, but there it is. It's coming up slowly. We don't want to ram it past those. So we're sort of wiggling it gently and back and forth, side to side, to get it up. So it's off the solenoids now, so we can use our strength and hold that with one hand from the oil filler cap while carefully bringing that out. So that gasket was still stuck a little bit at the front, that's why it's hanging there. We'll go get rid of that, and we haven't tipped it, so none of the debris fell off. Best place to take that is straight to the wash bay. I'll still maintain so far that I don't believe this one's been opened up before. I just saw the factory dobs of silicone under the valve cover, so that's really good. We like when they haven't been opened up before. It looks like it's had fairly good service. It's quite black. It certainly hasn't had 5,000k oil changes, because that would be shiny clean, and that's why we recommend it. Once you've got an EGR solution, it does stay a lot cleaner, but it's been fairly well serviced from what I can see. So that's where it's at. The next thing we do, I want to clean up this area. Before I start getting the injectors and open up that part of the fuel system, I want to clean all this debris, because rather than have all the clean part out and then wipe that and bits of stuff fall off your rag, I'd rather not do that. So I'm going to clean all the top surface of the head before I touch anything else there, okay? So you don't need to watch me do that. I'll stop the video. I'm cleaning the surface of the head and all the silicone from the front here. So I'm probably going to spend, could be anything from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. Catch you soon. Alright, so all I've done from the last section was just trying to get this wiring loom out the way a bit, which is good. When you've got the it's another good reason to do the EGR clean, to have the EGR elbow off at the same time, because it allows this plastic section at the back of the loom to come forward. You can actually pull this loom a little bit, you know, not yank the hell out of it, but and you pull it forward, and then you just sort of jam that. I tuck the first plug underneath so it's out of the way, and just gently press that wiring loom in between those two brackets. And this plug I just put on this side, so again it's not hanging out there. Oh sorry, it wasn't that one, I meant this one here. I've just hooked that in behind there gently. Those two are kind of there, but they're not really in the way. I used to put a hockey strap and hook it on here and tie it back to something like that, but it doesn't make a lot of difference, so we just ignore those. Okay, and the other thing I've done is obviously cleaned the surface a little bit of the head. It's not the final clean, it's just a quick clean up so we get rid of most of our mess. You didn't need to watch me do that. Now, it's pretty straightforward to remove the injectors. I'm about to go ahead and undo these. On the 120, the early ones, I'll say generally the 120 Prados, they've got 17mm over this side. On the later ones, from about 150 Prado or 2009, 10-ish onwards, they went down to a 12mm bolt, and I believe the reason why is because it's less likely it's going to catch the outside of that gasket that goes on the leak back pipe and twist it, because that happens sometimes, and there's sometimes nothing you can do about it. You can clean it, lube it all you like, it just happens, so don't worry about that, but it's nice if it doesn't happen. So I'm going to go ahead and undo these 4 17mm, the 12mm at the back, take that return line off, and take these 4 bolts and clamps off the injectors and remove the injectors, and then do a quick pre-clean of those ports. Again, not the final clean, just a quick pre-clean. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Once we've got it all stripped down, I'm going to go and give the valve cover a good wash. It's something else you could do now, because then it allows time for it to dry, etc, etc. Okay, so as I said, all I've done is return the fuel return line, or the leak back pipe, whatever you want to call it, those 5 bolts, 4 17mm and 1 12mm at the back, lifted that off, removed the 4 injector clamp bolts, lifted those off with the clamps as an assembly, removed the 4 injectors, remembering always make sure those washers come out. They should be on the bottom of the injector, or if they're a bit loose, they could fall off, be in the bottom of the port. If you've got blow-by, they could be buried in all that mess. Luckily on this one, no blow-by, which was really good. And so the injectors are on the bench. We'll have a quick look at those, and amongst other things. What are we going to do next? We're going to go and wash that valve cover, give it a really good clean up, and we're going to check the valve clearances. So we'll hook you up with that shortly. Stay tuned. Okay, so cleaned up the valve cover, that's drying. We've got our rags cut into strips in our dowel. Alright, that's what we're going to do there. Right, this isn't the best example, so that's what it comes out looking like, because there's just oil in there at the moment. Right, so you go through a number of these, you need to cut them into neat little strips, takes time. It's all time consuming, you know what I mean? Right, in you go. Give them those a clean. There it is, more oil, right? They're going to get dirty. You can reuse that a little bit still, you know, because it's just early stages. We're just trying to soak the oil up. So he goes in clean-ish. Just a quick little, you know, this isn't a good example, right? But yeah, it comes out with the oil on it, right? And then we're just going to go get a new bit of rag. we're going to go again. And if you've got stuff you need to clean out of there, you can spray a little bit of those, you know, those red cans of degreaser from Repco or Super Cheap. You can spray a little bit on the end of the rag and then just work it a bit like that. Some of these sticks, you can put a little tech screw on the end of it if you like, and put it on your drill if you want. It's not going to hurt anything. You're probably just going to tear it'll shred the rag a little bit, makes a bit of mess. I sort of tried it, it's not too bad, but you know, just clean these out until they're all just spotlessly clean is the key. Alright, this is just the initial clean. I'm just giving you an idea, right? It's pretty sloppy actually what I'm showing you, because I'm just trying to do it quickly before I turn off this camera and go and get into it for real. Right, so we're going to clean those up. It is the initial clean, right? And once they're cleaned up, then we're going to go and check the valve clearances, so clean your ports. So now, we've given the ports a bit of a clean. Probably spent about 20 minutes on that. You know, nice. You've got to pick your rags. Nice, thin, clean, white, cut into strips. You can put them over your dowel. You can even put a lacquer band over them a bit further up to hold them in place for you. Like I said, tech screw in the end of the bit of timber. The dowel, right, I'll show you one of the ones that I use. Right, there's the tech screw in the end of it. We had to put some araldite to hold it because it did spin. So there it is, there's the whole length of it. It's not that big, right? Right. Down the ports with a rag over it. Right. Strips of rag. You can't just have a bunch of rag because it'll jam and be tight. It's got to be thin strips about an inch or so wide. Okay, so those ports are pretty clear now. We're going to move on to checking the valve clearances. Now, we're not going to do a lot of detail here. What we're going to tell you is we're about to remove this power steering reservoir because it's in the way of getting your arm down here to put your 22mm with the socket on the crankshaft, so you can turn the crankshaft over. That's going to go down there, and then we're going to check the valve clearances. So I'll give you a bit more information shortly. Okay, so power steering reservoir removed and just set back a little bit, just to get in there with the arm to put the ratchet on the crankshaft there and be able to turn the crankshaft over to check the valve clearances. Now, we've done this in further detail in other videos. We've got a number of sets of feeler gauges. If you don't know what a feeler gauge is, you know, that's what you're looking at, right? Pretty well used, aren't they, when they get a bit bent up and all that. So we've got this is our basic, I suppose, you know, set that we check them with, and if there's anything abnormal going on, we've got a couple of better quality sets, angled ones, whatever, to double check and all that before we make any adjustments. So I'm not going to show you in this video how to check the valve clearances, but look, I'll go briefly on it, right? And it's basically, you know, having the cam loads pointing upwards or anywhere in the upward area so they're not pressing on the lifters, and checking the clearance between the lifter and the camshaft at the bottom there, okay? So if you need more detail than that, I'm not sure if we've got a video on YouTube yet, but there's definitely videos in the VIP group, so that's where you want to be. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll get on with checking the valve clearances. Look, so one of the first things I do with the EGR clean, so that I can see how bad it is or isn't, so we know what's going on, whether it needs a manifold clean, is I get the vacuum and a screwdriver and a vac and a scrape. I'll give you a bit of a demonstration. Could get noisy, so sit tight. So pretty well goes like that. Except I've got to do a bit more. So we're going to give that area a clean up and then have, as I said, have a look down number 4 port and forward and see, give it a judgment and see, you know, whether we think it needs cleaning or whether it's worth removing the manifold. So we'll get on with that and we'll get to the next step soon. Hey guys, Anthony, still going on this job. I don't know what I've shown you and what I haven't. I've been going on it all day again. Well, it's not all day, it's about 3 o'clock at the moment. Obviously the valve cover, we're giving a really good clean up, both sides. You can see that like new. You can have a good inspection of it, make sure there's no cracks. Happy days. And then what I wanted to point out is, obviously you sit your new valve cover in place. A bit of water came out then, so there you go. It's good to actually sit the cover like this for a fair while. Now we've blown it out and allowing that sometimes some water can sit in there, and it has been sitting on the bench for some time like that. Now, I'm just going to give it a, trying to show you. Look, I think that's it, but there's a few drops of water there. Not sure exactly where they came from, but probably it's usually out of that PCV area, and that's why we say give it a good wash as soon as you get it off. That way you can allow maximum drying time, because you can stand there with the air blower all day, because that's pretty well, I reckon I spent a good 5 minutes blowing the moisture out of that, and there was still a couple of drips there. So basically make sure it's dry, okay? Give it a good blow dry. So really I think you do need compressed air, unless you've got heaps of time and you can allow this to sit around and dry. So I blow it dry and then sit it in the sun, hopefully when the sun's out. What I wanted to point out here is, mainly, was not that, but that's another good point as well. All these things are pretty obvious really, but I suppose for people that don't know or haven't done it before, as you know, I'm not trying to convince you to do it or not do it yourself. If you've contacted me and decided, you know, you're going to do it, then no worries, I'll support you the best I can to do that. If you know you shouldn't be doing it, then you're not doing it. We're not going to try and convince you and talk you into it either, because we've got people that can do it. So the fitting part of it's not an issue, but what I'd like to point out is that there, not good enough, because the gasket may fall out when you tip it upside down. There's some little tabs there. You just got to make sure you press them all in. So work your way along slowly, like this, all the way. So there's one right there. Right, once you put that in, don't come in, look, I'll go a bit further. Another one there, right? You kind of got to go like, so look, it's not gonna, that is not gonna come out in a hurry, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so just point is all the way around. Just make sure there's little tabs there, just where it's a bit tighter, so you can sort of see that molding there. It's right there where it's fits really tight, and I've done it in videos before, where I've shown you can actually, I can hold the cover and fling it as hard as I can, and that gasket doesn't come out. So the only way that's going to come out of position, if you fitted that, so that's perfectly fitted now. I'm going to go over it again, because that's how I roll. It's called double, triple checking. I don't want to be pulling this cover off again after I've put the injectors in, the fuel lines on and all that, right? So I'd rather just be sure to be sure to be sure, right? Take as much time as it, you know, whatever it takes. So make sure that's in right, and happy days, right? Now, I've told you what we do with the molly coat, but I'm just going to show you exactly how I do it. Use the molly coat for a lot of stuff. Like I said, all the O-rings on the injectors, on the fuel filters, on the map sensor, pretty well any O-ring that likes lubrication, which is most of them. I'll get only about that much out of the tube. That's all you need for this part of the job, right? I'm just going to spread that a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, all right? So a little bit, and just spread it around on both seals. So just want to make sure I've got a little bit on each one. So, all right, just make sure all the way around, and push your finger through it to the secondary seal as well. Okay, so the few reasons why we want to give this a really good wash up, because you could not wash it. You could not wash it. You could just wipe this, put a gasket, and slap it back together. It's the dirt falling off it to the inlet to the injectors. it's checking it for cracks, right? To make, because there can be cracks here, you know what I mean, at the back here or at the front here, right? So we want to check it for cracks. You know, that looks like new, you know it's not leaking. And also dirt. If there's dirt under these seals that we're lubricating now, these top solenoid seals, that's enough to hold the seal open and just allow it to not leak. It's more of a sweat. It will sweat, but oil can pull at the top of the injector solenoid, right? So as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty well ready to go on. Of course, it'll get triple checked again the moment before it's about to get put on the engine. So at the moment, we're just preparing all the parts. So this is what I've done. Obviously, we washed the cover ages ago. We checked that we temporarily cleansed the ports, the top of the head. You know, we got the injectors out obviously to clean the ports. We checked the valve clearances, happy days, right? I've cleaned the EGR valve, so here's the EGR valve assembly waiting to go back on. So that's sitting there nice and clean. Throttle body's all here nice and clean. The leak back pipe with the 5 washers that we replace, that's sitting here all clean, ready to go, and oil on those washers and under the heads of the bolts. So this stuff is what all takes time. There's no point rolling video. I can just tell you that's what I've done. I'm sure you can figure that part out. It's kind of figure out the basics. But I will try and show you some separate things in other videos. But as I said, what I want to have in the VIP group is just a whole heap of this sort of information on how to do injectors and all the tech tips and do's and don'ts and things around it. Really specialist area thing kind of stuff. And that way you can maximize the information you get to decide whether you're going to do the job or not. Because you can get in the VIP group by buying your injector set, and that can be your final bit of information in there. Watch some videos to decide, because sometimes people are undecided. Most people have decided they're either doing it themselves or they want someone to do it, so that's fine. But if you're not sure, small percentage of people, watch the videos and then, just to gather the information so you can make an informed decision. So look, everything's pretty well ready to go back together. So everything's clean, cover's clean, gaskets are on. Next thing is, we haven't done it yet, we're going to get the injectors out of the packaging, lay those out, take a photo of the solenoid tops and number them. Left to right is how we do it. Left to right is front to rear. Seems simple, you're right from left to right. Your engine starts number 1 at the front, so left's number 1, second in's number 2, etc. On the right's number 4. Take a photo of those so you can zoom in, easier, clearer to read when you've got to put them in the ECU later using your scan tool. And then of course we'll use the moly coat again on the O-rings, get all the caps off, and get those injectors in. And obviously we'll get the camera back on the job once we get to that sort of stage, I think, because there's no point showing you how to take photos. Alright guys, thanks for watching so far. Hope it's been helpful. So on a separate note, the EGR system cakes up or it puts dry soot through your engine, not a good thing. That's a separate story, you know that. If you haven't, go watch the videos, read the information, do your homework. But if you were going to put a plate in, this is the time you'd put it in. So I'll just quickly run through. This vehicle isn't getting one obviously because for whatever reason, that's, hasn't even been discussed, to be honest, and we don't buy, sell or install them, but they may install one, they may not, I don't know. We do sell them actually. Well, we don't sell them, they're free. We put them free with the injector kit, but anyway, that's what it looks like, that's the plate. Where does it go? Okay, so to install the plate, it's not an easy job that you can do in 5 minutes, like, slip it in, some of the slip it in sort of talk we hear. These are the steps you need to take. You need to clean your EGR system, okay? It's not engineered to work. It's not a balance of having a caked up EGR and the valve's not working, things aren't working. You need to make sure it's all clean and working. And you put the plate in at the same time if that's what you decide to do. Now, the EGR system still works, it just reduces the flow. See the hole there? Anyway, what you need to do, once you've got all your EGR valve and everything off, which we've shown you in this video, that leaves your EGR cooler. That's this item here. If anyone's wondering what the EGR cooler is, that's the EGR cooler or heat exchanger, right? That's still securely mounted there. Now what holds that in place is a 12mm bolt here and 2 10mm nuts down there that bolt it to the head. You need to remove that common rail plug. That's your common rail, that's the pressure sensor that needs to be unplugged. Did a quick video on that the other day. We can continue this one actually, so we'll just I'll go ahead and take the steps and look, I'll put a plate in on this just to show you how to do it, alright? So we'll put it in, then we're going to take it out again. Okay, just got to find some tools. We need that one. Where's that socket? Here we go. So I'm going to take the, actually no, change of plan. I'm going to grab that. Yeah, I wouldn't know what I was doing, would I? Okay, so we're going to get in there and, well, actually, first thing we want to do is undo that corner plug. So this is going to be a good one to see whether it comes undone or not. This is not an off-roader, so we first need to locate where the pin is. It's at the top, so we can press that with one hand, because I can't really get my thumb. This is the problem, it's just awkward because I can't get my finger to put pressure on it and be able to pull on the plug, so it's a two-hand job. And I can press the tabs at the top and the plug's tight. So as I described in the other video, if you haven't watched it yet, you need to go and watch it. I'm going to show you how we do it, okay? So locate your screwdriver. We'll get a light for the job as well so I can see what's going on. I mean, I can sort of do it blindfolded, I'd imagine, but you're not going to see the full detail, obviously. It's just really hard to get the camera in there. This is not one where I can hold it. I need the hands to do the job, so I'll put the light down in there. I'm going to put the screwdriver here so that I can lever against that alloy of the inlet manifold and just on the end of the plug, but I'm not going, trying to get it off. I'm just gently, it's more of a, I'm just gonna rock on it, kind of go, just kind of go like that, and just sort of really gently, right? But I've got to press and release the tab first. So you probably might not even be able to see what I'm doing now. I'll try and get out of the way. And I'm using that flat blade to just gently go like this, as I just described. Right. Just gently like that. Now, I can see that it's moved a little bit already, about 1 millimetre. No, but the clip's popped back down, so not far enough, because I let the clip go, because I thought I was going to be able to step back and show you what I'm talking about. But it has moved a little bit. Right. Okay, I'm letting the plug go again and that tab go. I believe it's still released and the plug's moved. I don't want to keep levering it because you sort of, if you put pressure, you're cocking it sideways and it should come off easy now. So now I'm just going to grab the body of the plug and give it a wiggle and pull backwards. There it is, see? Off it came, and just push it down below. If you can see that. You can actually, there it is there. Not the center of the picture, just below the pipe. There it is, see? Happy days. I don't know how much you saw, but you get my drift. I'll show you a few times, right? So, plug's off, and that's off so that we can access the two 10mm nuts. One at the top. I'll move this power steering down a little bit out the way as well, that reservoir. Okay, it's one. And it'll pop back up at me, as it always does. Finger on the end of the nut so we don't lose it. Got that. And then the bottom nut, which is hidden down behind there. Easy for me to find and do. Had a few EGR coolers off before. You've got to take this right off, obviously, if you're going to do an inlet manifold clean. So drop your coolant first. I could just keep talking and go forever with the information, couldn't I? I know. Okay. So, those two nuts undone, so we've got one more to go now, and you're going to see the whole thing come loose. And I usually do this one last, and I'll put it back in first, and I'll show you why. Did you see the whole thing move and come loose? Now, if it's bolted down there, and not here at this point, this is where you could possibly have some issues. And that's because, right, so there it is, it's all loose now. But it's got a very small weld going along the bottom of that pipe, so if it's secured down there and not here, that allows this to get moved around, knocked, lent on or whatever, and it could damage that. So anyway, so that's how we do it. Now, have I got a plate here somewhere? I have, because I've got some more stock coming to include them with the injector kit, because lots of people want them, so all you got to do is ask and we include it for free. Now, so there's the plate. I haven't touched the gasket. I'm going to have a look at it. I'll pull it back. Yep, there's a gasket stuck on the head. Why would you touch it? It's not a pressure situation, so you don't need another one, okay? the plate goes straight over the top of the gasket that's there. By placing it in your left hand, slip it in behind the flange, right, line the holes up, and then just slip the EGR cooler back on. How easy is that, right? I'll pull it back for you so you can, I don't know if you can see in there. Yeah, well, look what you can see from that angle. You can't. Here we go. Let's try. Can only try, that's all we can do with this one. Down in behind there, right? Make sure it's all in place, they're both on, get no gasket falling out of place. EGR cooler goes back on, nuts get started, mounting bolt goes in. Don't tighten anything up because it's going to put it out of alignment for when you put your EGR valve back on at the other end. Bolt that up first, tighten this up later. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take that plate back out, put this back together, and then we'll get on with the video. What we're going to do next, I think we're going to, I won't include it in the video, I'm going to polish and clean those injector ports after I prepare the injectors for installation, and then I'll start the video when we're popping them all back in. Okay, so second last clean of the ports. On this one, we've got a little bit of carby cleaner. Okay, that does speed things up a bit and give it a nice polish. And a little bit of fluff just fell off the rag. What I do when I cut them in strips, I give them a really good shake off, but you know, you get that. It won't hurt anything. It will end up in your sump, probably on your oil pickup, and you'll have a panic. So be aware, there is some other debris in your engine sometimes. Alright, so I'll show you that one. They were pretty clean, but I just want to show you that one. See that? Putrid, isn't it? That was with a bit of carby cleaner. So what we do now, we just slide that along the stick to the next spot, and we're going to go give it another little spray. A little spray on the stick, on the rag strip, if you know what I mean. Not down the hole. And our last rag is just going to be a clean rag. So these, to look at, were already spotlessly clean. You get a bit of an angle on the back one, you know, nothing you can do about it. So if you're doing it dodges with a drill, that socket will slip on the so look, that's looking a lot better. Don't remember, it's a wet look as well, so it is clean. It's fairly clean, okay, clean enough. Oh my god, I just said it's clean enough. Anyway, it is clean enough. I will be happy to show you down the ports if you like, but before we do, the final clean. It's just about finding a really nice bit of fabric, and that's what we got here. This rag cut into strips, as I said. This is about, I don't know, 1.5 inches wide, probably 40 centimetres. And we just pop the stick over it. Bada boom, bada bing, right? And because we're not wetting it, it's going to give you a better idea of judgment. And you keep doing this until it comes out clean, okay? So, clean. If it's not clean, we're going to slip the rag. I've made it look pretty easy. It doesn't always work this well, trust me. Okay, a little bit of dirt on that one, right? I'll show you that. So looking at the sides of it and everything, looks pretty good, but if you look on the end, but that's out of 4 holes, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to slip the rag down to the next clean spot. No point going to a new bit of rag when this one's fine at this point. It's just a little adjustment. And we go do that again. Dodgy brothers, I tell you. Okay, looking at that one, a little bit on there, right? So I'll show you on the rag. So the bottom one, where is it? That was the first one. Second one, where you can. There you go, second one. Right, first one, second one. Going to have a look down the hole. This can go on forever. Alloy with a bit of moisture on it, a bit of pressure and a bit of speed. So what we're going to do, what we do now is we grab the torch-orama. Now the easiest way to check these, you can climb up and have a look if you like, but what I do, wonder if this is going to work to show you. No, not going to work, so you've got to get the, can you see that? Let me see, let me get the camera here. This would be good if this works out. Oh yeah, there you go. Well that, eh? Bit of a torch reflection makes it hard for you, but I assure you, that is spotless. Look at that. However you want to look at it. A little bit of light, a bit more light. Right, so that's what I do, right? I just go, mate, that is beautiful, right? So's that one. There's not one speck of anything. And number 4 is beautiful too. You wouldn't believe it looking at the rag, but I'm telling you, I can keep throwing that rag down there again and again and again. It's clean, just because I'm spinning it at speed and whatever. Okay, so those ports are spotlessly clean. Then what we've got to do is we've got our 4 new copper seats. Copper. It's got a coating over it. It looks like alloy. They're copper. You've got to have copper. Nice and soft and pliable. Flexes, squashes to make the seal. You've got to use the right torque spec, not over, not under. You've got to use the correct torque spec. Why? Well, if it's too loose, it might leak. If it's too tight, well, it ain't going to leak. But you might bend the injector too much and have problems with that. Now that'd be worse than having a leak at, say, you know, 200,000 Ks where you had to change them anyway. By doing them tighter, it's not going to really make it last longer. It's just going to start you having problems with the injectors straight away. So where did that mirror go? Because now I need to have a look again. While we're looking again, we need to make sure they're sitting flat, because you drop them down there and that one's flat, that one's flat, that one's flat, that one's not. Okay, so you get your nice clean screwdriver. Give it a bit of a tickle, and that should have straightened it out. Yep, she's flat, 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 flat. Now, we've got the injectors out. We've taken a photo of them for the compensation code. The next step is lubing the O-rings, getting all the caps off and dropping them in. So we'll go and do a bit of prep. Back with you in a sec. Okay, so injectors are ready, O-rings are lubricated, so in goes one, and they may go in that easy, and they may take a bit more, right? We believe they made the injector bodies bigger, and obviously the tolerance in the head is what varies, and some are tighter than others, and you've got to give them a bit of curry. Now just remember to keep that O-ring lubed. You can't, if you're having trouble getting it to pop in, you can pop it back out and put a bit of lube on the part that's proving to be tight. I'm just going to get the next one. I just want to get them all in the hole, and then we'll worry about getting them all down all the way. So in the hole clean, without touching the base of the injector on the side of the port or anything where the oil is, you know. It's got to be clean, right? Clean, 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 clean. You got me clean. Right, now, just a gentle
Bit of pressure and a twist, a little bit of pressure, just slowly, you know. Got to have that O-ring lubed and do it slowly, otherwise you could pinch the O-ring. And see, there's not a lot of play with that one at all. This one, there's a little bit more, but a lot less than what there was years ago. And this one, still got to go down. I think that's down now, yeah. Right, much tighter, right? So these are a lot tighter than injectors used to be. Now, unofficially, this is me figuring things out. A while ago I noticed these things were fitting a lot tighter in most engines. Sometimes you get a couple that are a little bit looser still. Like I said, tolerance in the head. They've probably gone as tight as they can based on averages of the size of the port in the head. They used to have a bit more tolerance. There'd be more play here. So when you clamp it down, it would bend banana the injector a bit more, and that messes with the internal tolerances. Now they've made the bodies bigger. Yeah, much better for the injectors, and happy days. So look, use the right torque specs, make sure it's clean. It's really important to have brand new fresh stock. You can see these are brand new injectors and they are fresh stock. Got to tell you, the stock that I received yesterday was made, okay, it's only just October 2019. Was manufacture date is September 2019, so that's how fast it's coming out now. Really fresh stock at the moment. So if you see this video tonight, that's about the freshest injectors we've ever had. It varies from, you know, a few months, give or take, whatever. Sometimes it's within a couple of months. Usually say minimum 2 to 3 months from manufacture date to us getting them, mate. It's like less than a month. It's ridiculous. So got a heap of that stock on the shelf ready to go, and it is going. If anybody needs some, give us a yell. So injectors are sitting in. What do we got to do next? We will sit the clamps in place. You saw me strip it down. There's no point rolling the video to show you how to put clamps in place and whatever. Tell you what I'll do. I'll put the fuel return line on. I'll do that first. It doesn't really matter what order you do it, whether you put this on. What does matter, the important part we will get to, okay? What does matter is the order you tighten everything down, and checking your injector alignment is the important part, okay? So let's get these started. Basically, if someone's been in here before and misaligned the injectors, that is, oh yeah, thought they were about there, put their clamps on, tighten them down, it's going to hold them in the wrong position, wrong angle, but then this is going to go on, and then over time this is going to change its shape with all the heat and everything and being sort of bent in the wrong position. So then when you go to put it back together again, you're going to still have the same misalignment issue. You can't just go by this alone. It's at least 90% accurate. What I'm saying is, see, with it loose, you can wobble this back and forth, so there's a tolerance there. And usually either one of those would be okay in the center of its best. How do you get the center? Well, you slowly tighten this up, right, while wiggling this back and forth ever so gently as it gets tight, and it's going to stop in the center, right? Now, that's usually fine. Now, where you got a problem is where someone's been in here before and they've mucked up the whole alignment, and then they've bent the return line, and then you're using that to realign it. Now, just tell you a little bit about these little double-sided washers while we're at it. You can put them to the left thinking, oh, you know, that's going to help you, but it doesn't, because with the washer sitting against the little stop there, or the pipe there, that actually holds them better, is what I've found. Right, so back and forth. This is not ideally how to do it. I'm normally sort of where the camera is in front, left hand here, right hand there, whatever, but I'm just sort of giving you an idea. I'm wiggling it back and forth as I tighten it, so it'll centralise on the rail, right? Next thing you do is you sit your clamps in place, okay? You don't tighten them up, you don't clamp them down, you don't do your torque spec on them at this point, no. Right, everything nice and slowly. Have a think, have a check. What have you forgotten? Because you don't want to be going back, okay? So next thing is the clamps are going to go on. They're just going to sit in place. And then after that, we're going to check the alignment using the valve cover, okay? We've got a spare one here that we use. This is in other videos in the VIP group, so I'm not going to spend too much detail on it, aligning the injectors. And we will do a separate video installing and aligning the injectors once again, because that's what you've got to do to make sure everybody gets a hold of it. Sometimes you guys are a bit lazy finding the older information, which is still good and current. So I suggest you do a bit more of that, go through the old videos. But give me a break at the moment and I'll get those clamps on, and when I'm ready to check the alignment, I'll come back to you and give you the torque specs and on with the job. As I said, shown you this in other videos before. This is not the valve covers back on. This is all I've done is set the clamps in place to get them out of the way so they're kind of in there. And this is an old valve cover we've got that's got a little crack in the back, someone over tightened. And of course we replace those covers or reseal them, whatever we need to do to sort it out. But we've got a few spares hanging around the workshop from those that we can use for kind of test fit, and that's what we do. So you just have a look, you leave the caps on, you don't force the cover down, okay, you just let the cover gently sit there and see how that red cap's really central in the hole. I'm going to give you an example of what you could do if it wasn't, right? If it was just a little bit out, because the injectors are loose, you just get your long flat blade screwdriver, just gently give that a little twisty tweak like that, and you could bring it back to where you wanted, you know, a little bit, because everything's just finger tight, so the slightest bit of pressure, and it's not going to hurt that red cap or the side of the valve cover there, no problem. You're not yanking on anything. Again, it's all very gentle sort of work, right? Give it the baby treatment, right? Second one, same deal, spot on. This is much easier done with the EGR off still, which is the order we put it back together. That one's good as well. Look, it's hard to get the camera in there for you to see or whatever, but I can check for you. That one's facing, it's a little bit to the back, to be honest. So what we're going to do, as soon as you're watching, is try and show you what I mean, right? I'm just going to get in there and just go tweaky tweaky. Right, might put a little mark in the red cap because I'm actually twisting the screwdriver. Look, that's spot on, dead set center. Now you probably can't see that as well as I can, but they're all spot on. So what we're going to do now is take that cover back off and torque everything down. Alright, so we've got our injectors sitting in all clean, washers there, lubed up, return lines on, it's all finger tight, everything's lined up. We put our cover on, checked it, no worries, you know, without the gasket, without forcing it over those red caps. The alignment's good, or just tweaked it a little bit, either way. Take the cover back off. Now it's time to do one of the most important parts, I suppose, especially if you forgot to do it, then it would be really important, because you don't want to forget it, okay? So these clamps here, 22 Newton meters. You don't need to replace the clamps, the dome washers, or the bolts. That are not a normal replacement item. Toyota are the engineers on this. They know best, okay? Unless we find a good reason. We've done enough of them without finding good reason, so that's how we roll. Okay, so like I said, the copper is quite pliable and squashes. You can go whatever you want to do. First, second, third click, you know. Generally it's going to click again straight away like that, but if it doesn't, I'm going to give it a break and give it a bit more, because I'd rather be a little bit over. See what I mean? So that one, those three, no worries. But it feels right. These are not moving, they feel right. This one, it felt like it needed a bit more. See, now it's not moving, so happy days. I like to triple check it. I want to pull on it and it clicks straight away, because you're going to get the correct and highest torque when it's on the move, which is the way you should do it. You shouldn't sort of stop and start. You want to be on the swing when you click it. And that's what we did with all of them, but even though 2, 3 and 4, they didn't want to go any further on a restart, which was fine, but number 1 did, which sort of says, for whatever reason, but that's the deal, right? We're going to double check it, and if you can get it moving again, it's not on the move. It's always harder. It's going to seem like it's a higher torque spec once it's stopped, if you follow my drift. So now, right, they're just not going to budge, right? Because it's just how it is, right? So worth checking. because it did go a bit more and it felt right. It did feel like it needed that. So we're going to switch over to the 17 mil and we're going to drop from 22 Newton meters down to about 16. Now I say about because, look, I prefer more than less with this one, and everybody's got their opinion on that, but look, I've got to tell you, one of these supposedly reputable diesel shops who blueprints injectors, you know, Bailey's, just say it, that's who they are, that's what they do. They've got an online guide of, you know, how to do your injectors, but their torque specs they've got, last time I checked, and I checked a couple of years apart, I advised them, recommended they should probably adjust that, because it goes against their own warranty procedures. I mean, it says, you know, you've got to do it as per manufacturer procedure for your warranty, but then their guide tells you different to that. So I'll give you an example. The torque specs here, we're going to use a 22, 16, 13, you know, 32 on the pipes. Last time I checked, it was 25, 25, 25, 25, 25. I don't know, does that work for them? I don't know, maybe that's why they have problems with injectors over clamping them down to 25, you know, bananaing the injectors, and considering they're all the old bodies, maybe that's something that happens. So, but look, I don't know, maybe they've changed it, but I checked it and it was still 25, 25, 25 and 25. So I tend to just give them all a bit of a nip maybe. These are just finger tight at the moment, right? It's a single hex socket, so it is a bit awkward to get on, you know, the position wise. These are not that tight, you could probably just go with a normal double, what do you call it, 12 point rather than a 6 point socket, which is what I usually do, but I had this one out. I have this one out for, I don't know really, but here we are. So we're doing the 16 on these. I wouldn't mind if it was 17 or 18. Apparently 25's okay, so I don't think you can go too far wrong if people have been doing 25 for years, but again, hollow bolt, you're probably more likely to damage or bust the bolt off by doing that. Right, so we haven't gone anywhere to click it yet. I just like to do them all together. I'm sort of, then I'm in the zone, if you know what I mean. So they're starting to feel like they're getting close to it. So we're going to go for it, okay? That one was the one that felt the furthest away still. These others feel like they're getting close. Let's see. Bit closer. That's what I thought. If I had to do them by hand, I would have gone a little bit more and been happy. There you go. So I just like to double check. I don't mind if it goes 1 or 2 Newton meters over. I don't care if it's 16, 17, 18, 19 really. No. I'd rather double check it, and if it moves a bit, I'd rather get that little bit extra out of it and be a little bit over than a little bit under, if you know what I mean. This is, the situation is, if they leak, you've got an internal fuel leak and your engine oil is going to start filling up with fuel, and I'll hear about it too much from cars that have come from other workshops. See what I mean? So we double check that one and it turns, right? So okay, so happy. We've done those 4. Whatever you do, don't forget the last one. And is it the last one for you? Well, may or may not be. This is the procedure I use. It works for me. Now, what number are we down the back? You know, it depends what book you look in. Like I said, there's plenty of books and diagrams, and there's genuine books, aftermarket books, and in other years things changed a little bit, and I can tell you a couple of Newton meters here or there generally aren't going to make a big difference. So we're not going to argue whether it's 12, 13, 14 or 15. It's about 13, but I'd rather go again on the high side of 13. So if it's 14 or 15, if you've got a cheap torque wrench and you're not too trusting of it, considering there's other firms that do these up to 25 Newton meters, I think you'd be pretty safe to go 15. But you can check or trust the factory torque specs. You can trust 25 if you want, but I use 13 and a bit. Okay. And it does feel quite tight at 13 and a bit. I reckon that was pretty well there. There you go, pretty close, wasn't it? Again, I'd rather just go extra to be sure, okay? So that's kind of the important part done, I suppose, and the other most important part is that you didn't forget any of these. So before you get excited and go putting it all back together, that's your fuel system temporarily sealed up because your fuel line's on, your caps are still on the injectors. So the next steps are, look, I don't think we're going to get to it at this stage. So I'll put this up as a video as part 2 for the 120 Prado injector replacement. The next steps are going to be to make sure this top of the head is perfectly clean. You've seen our valve covers clean, the new gasket's in place, the seals are lubed up. There's going to be 4 little dobs of RTV, 1, 2, 3, 4, nowhere else. Once that's in place, everything's clean and that's in place, we're ready to drop the cover on. We're going to have our fuel pipe sitting there ready to go, and we're going to drop the cover on, and we're going to sit the bolts in and get them started, because that'll only take a couple of minutes. But before we do that, we're going to sit the nozzle holder seals in place, because they act as a veranda if there's anything in the air or falling from above, stop them from getting in the inlets. And once we tighten those up, we'll pop the seals in one by one as we're fitting the pipes, and we'll fit the pipes as swiftly as possible, and that'll all happen before the EGR valve goes back on. So once again, guys, hope this has been informative. If you don't want to miss out on part 3 and subsequent videos on all sorts of Prado, diesel, petrol, vehicle information, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you get notified when the next most important information on our channel comes your way. Thanks for watching.